All right, it is Wednesday, October 29th, 8:20 in the morning. I want to talk about a couple things today. Um, this might be a little bit of a longer video, so grab you a little snack, a little drink, maybe roll you up something to smoke on while I talk about some stuff, get into some thingy things. Um, First, I think I want to talk about is Donald Trump a little bit. This is such a crazy time in society. We knew our government was corrupt. We've known for a long time that just a small number of families control the world, control society, consider themselves royalty and mandated by God and all these crazy things. But, never in our society has corruption been so out in the open, so blatant, so obvious. Like everything that Trump does is just so corrupt on so many levels. Um, I think some people are finally starting to understand and see the positive of Trump. And I've seen a couple videos about it. I had this idea a couple weeks ago, or honestly, a couple months ago, when things started to get really bad with Doge. And, if you've ever had your life fall apart, fallen into addiction, fallen into bad patterns, or had everything be completely destroyed in your life, your physical, your mental, whatever, you understand that when things get really, really bad, you're presented with amazing opportunities to change things. And that's what we're seeing with Trump right now. Like, I don't want to talk about him too much. I don't want to give him too much credit because he's a really disgusting human being, in my opinion. But he's serving an amazing purpose right now. He's giving people a reason to galvanize together, and his corruption is so blatant and so out in the open, and the people defending him are so reprehensible. It's so obvious to see how disgusting and corrupt our system is. Trump really represents everything about America that has been an undercurrent for a long time, hidden behind coded language and institutions that pretended to not be racist, but now it's just everything is just out in the open now. And in a lot of ways, this is really nice because we actually get to face our enemies. As a country, we actually get to really see who supports white nationalism, who supports, um, pedophiles and racists and bigots, and who actually stands with the people. We get to see elected officials either hold on to power and basically, bootlick, or we get to see who has the guts to stand up against tyranny, stand up against absolute corruption. Um, so this is a really wild time in society, but uh, you know, we're presented with an opportunity to change. We're presented with the airing of all the darkness of this country is finally coming to a head. And I think some people who were very closed, very asleep to the reality of what it means to be a colored person in this society, I think they're finally starting to notice and witness um, what it really means, and how some of us have really experienced what it means to be American. So people are presented with an opportunity to change, and that's a powerful thing. And I think more and more people will. And you know, there's this concept in humanity that says, only at the precipice of destruction do we actually change. And I resonate with that. Um, I've had a crazy life. I've had a really crazy life. That's the other thing. That's a nice little segue that I'll get into now. Um, Sometimes I get so down on myself for not being more successful, not having my career better, in a higher place, or not being more put together, having wasted a lot of opportunities, having spent a lot of time not bettering myself. Excuse me. So it's easy for me to get down on myself and really beat myself up and just live in the negative energies of the mistakes, but then I'll have these moments of clarity where I'll just kind of step back from everything and I'll think like, man, like, God, I have been through so much. Um, but not just me, like the people in society right now, like we have never experienced society like this. We have never had this much information crammed into our brains all the time. We've never had to operate vehicles at such an free with such frequency, like travel and intermeshing of cultures and different people being so loud, and like so much negative energy being so loud everywhere we go. Like corporations like constantly stealing our attention, like our government doing all this spying on us, our monetary system that only favors some, food that destroys our ability to think and our ability to be healthy, and promotes cancer. And like there's so much in society right now that like is stacked against people and human beings. And then there's that, but then I think about like who I am, what I've gone through. um I'm going to tell a little story about me right now that's a little it makes me feel a little vulnerable, but you're my family, right? So we can talk about these things. But so as many of you know or don't, maybe don't, I was adopted. I was adopted at 3 days old, and for a long time, I just suffered alone. I just felt alone. Like my adopted mom, she's really amazing. I love her to death. She is the best thing in my life. Her family has been the best environment for me, like my grandfather and my grandma and my aunts and uncles and my cousins and all the people in her family. Like I love them to death, love them to death. But they're a white family, and I've never. I mean, I feel like I fit in, but at the same time, you always feel like you never really fit into white culture. And my adopted father, his family, another white family, they were kind of the polar opposite of my mom's family. My mom's family is more liberal, more democratic, um, more progressive, more blue collar. And my adopted father's side is way more hyper conservative. They're MAGA, they're millionaires and people who've only ever lived in wealth and privilege and their whiteness and have never really had to experience um, the real world. And some of my cousins I really like, and on that side of the family, don't get me wrong, there is some good people, but my adopted father has had a lot of challenges in his life, and he's racist. He has been, to some degree, and I remember certain things about that, but that's a story for another time. Anyway, I say all these things because this has been my reality since I was a baby, growing up in these white worlds. So I've always walked between the white worlds and the colored worlds, because no matter how much English I speak, no matter how brilliant I am, or how much white culture I grew up with, and I grew up with a lot, I grew up deeply indoctrinated, like a lot of white people do, with all the American pride stuff. And like rightfully so. Like my grandfather is an incredible human being, a FBI, former FBI agent and Marine. You know, he very patriotic man, very much served our country in every way. And so I really bought into that for a long time. But as I got older and as I went to like the academy and started to see like racism really stick its head out of a lot of these white orifices, I realized, oh, okay, like there is, and then I started to like learn about history. And I grew up in North Carolina where, um, I was one of the few Hispanic kids in many all black or all white schools or mixed schools, mostly black or mostly white. Um, and so I always gravitated closer to the black community. Like right now, even now, I feel much more tied to the black community than I do any community. They really took me in. They really loved on me and appreciated me and protected me and helped give me identity, culture. Um, they really filled a hole in my life. So shout out to all my brothers and sisters in the black community. But so life has been really crazy for me. I moved a lot. I travel. I lived in like all these different states. My adopted parents split up when I was young, and so I moved to Carolina, and that's where I really just started to experience the black culture. But even though they really loved on me, you still, I'm still Mexican. I'm still indigenous. Um, I carry this bloodline. And, my entire life, everywhere I've gone, Hispanics have walked up to me and tried to speak Spanish. And I'm just like, sorry, like, I don't know. I don't know Spanish. Um, so I say all this to say is that I've never really felt like I've fit anywhere in my life. I've always been an oddball. So early in my life, I decided I'm not going to be afraid. I'm not going to let anything tear me down. I'm just going to be strong. I'm going to be proud. I'm going to be a man. I'm going to be like I'm going to build this armor that nothing can get in, and I'm just going to be so strong. And that worked. That worked for a while, and eventually, that armor that protected me became the thing that was killing me and keeping my really difficult emotions in, and really became this suffocating force that was then expedited by addiction and just pain and grief. When you're a little bit emotionally unstable and then the bad thing starts happening in your life, you really, really, really get broken down. And that grief and those things can really uh, exacerbate a situation. That's what happened to me with my life and addiction and things like that. Um, so I know, like we're talking about with Trump and the darkness of the world right now. So I know what it is to be broken and to be torn apart and see the ugliness and see all the worst of myself, and then find a way to rise out of it and heal and become the good, happy person that I was before I let the darkness take me. So I know what we can do. I know what's possible for us as a country because I've been through it as an individual. Um, and the way that I really started to heal and the way that I beat a really bad addiction was I finally opened the door to my biological family. And, I, some of my family probably doesn't want me saying too much about them. They're pretty private. And, you know, I hope they don't feel disrespected by me talking about this stuff, but this is my life. And I just feel like, I'm not going to blast this. I'm not really promoting this channel. I'm just keeping a record of my life and who I am for my children and for my friends and family and anybody who cares to listen. Um, so when I opened that door to my biological family, it was incredibly healing, but incredibly challenging to feel emotions that you decided you would never feel. You would never let yourself open yourself up to these things. You would never let yourself feel love. You would just close yourself off from that. Um, close yourself off from feeling anything. Any. I was angry for a long time. I was really angry about having lost my culture and my heritage and my family. So I shut it all out. And so, one of the ways to heal from the darkness is you have to let in the light, and you have to let in those emotions. And for a long time, for the first year or whatever, it was overwhelmingly good. I got to meet my mom, which was really powerful. I meet my sister and my brother, and then I started to meet all these other family members, my grandma and um, my cousins, and all these people, and my brother Ricky, who's not my biological brother, but he was raised by our father, and I consider him a brother. Shout out Ricky. Um, and for a while it was really, really positive, and it felt really good, and everything's on the surface, and it's all exciting, and you're meeting people, and you know I was 34 years old before I ever saw my parents' faces. And one of the craziest things about it is, um, my father actually died like a couple weeks before I reached out to everybody. And what you'll soon learn about me, if you don't already know, is I'm extremely mystic. I'm extremely spiritual, very tied to spirit. And magic and mysticism seems to follow me everywhere I go. And there's always just crazy signs for me, and just all kinds of stuff that happens. It's hard to really explain to people who aren't open to that. But so I just had felt this insane pull to my family. I really feel like my father guided me to the family at a time that I was needed to enter. My sister buried our father, really grieving, really hurting. And then here I come walking into her life, the spitting image of our dad, to bring everything full circle. There are moments when I'm with my brothers and sisters, and we're all together, and I really feel the presence of our father. And from what I hear about him, he was a really, really good dude, but he was also a really bad guy too at the same time. Like a bad ass gangster, fucking rough human, but also a good human, but also carried a lot of darkness too. And it's crazy to hear about him through my family and hear about my own father that way. I have been through so much in my life, like so much. It's hard to even wrap my brain around everything that I've been through and overcome and experienced and found a way to rise through. But one of the hardest things for me to deal with is my birth mom. She's a really, really difficult human being to deal with. I don't really want to talk too much about her stuff, but she had a really hard life. She's been through a lot. And I can tell that she has never really learned how to process things in a healthy way. I can tell that she's full of anger and full of pain, trauma, and she grew up in with a very hard life in a very hard place. Um, and Me and her were doing pretty well for a while. I was taking her out for food, and I was getting to know her, and she was telling me about her life, and things felt really good. And then she would just start going off on me. She would text me like these super long messages and just like all this stuff. She's just like very hypersensitive, and like things have to be a certain way. And I tried my best to like whatever, receive her and do right by her, and like it's really hard to open yourself up to these energies when you felt so hurt your entire life by not having access to this person, like my mother, the person who gave me life. But then I think about 2 years ago now, I got into a car accident and I lost my car. And so I wasn't able to like go see her for a while. I didn't have a car. And so what happened was we kind of had a little bit of a falling out. And then when I finally did get a car again, she like things were different. And she just like started to be really like weird to me. And then she would start to like ignore me, ignore my messages. I would like try to hit her up and be like, hey, like I would see her randomly at family get-togethers, and she would just be like, how come you don't come around, or how come you don't bring the girls around? I'm just like, okay, well, I'll try to. And then I, would hit her up and try to arrange something, and she would just ignore my messages. And like, there's something about me, like it pisses me off when people ignore me. Like it really pisses me off. To the point where if someone does it to me enough, I just stop talking to them. I'm like, I'm not gonna do this shit. Like, it takes so little effort to send a text message to somebody and like show a little bit of respect and communicate. So after like 3 different times, I tried to hit her up to like hang out and bring the kids around, and she just ignored it. And I was like, okay, all right, well, I'm just gonna focus on my life. And like at that time, that was a really, really hard time in my life. Like I had lost one of my best friends. That's when Frankie died. And then my girlfriend, like love of my life, like still love of my life, we broke up and she moved on with her life. And then I got into a car accident and I lost my car, like my dream car too. And I was down bad for a while. And then I'm just like working and I'm having to drive Uber with these other car, like this brand, like these like rental cars. And then I was finally able to get a new car for myself. And I'm just like working, working, working. And I was also at that time making music. I was working on an album, another album that probably will never get finished because that's how it always seems to go for me. But um, I was just like, man, I was fighting so hard because I was so destroyed from losing Frank and losing my girl and losing my car and just being like, just so, more than anything, losing Frank though. And then like still, like I'm still going to the studio, I'm still recording, I'm still like preparing for a show. I hadn't done a show in like 10 years. And the last year I was, going through all this shit and still working my ass off and training and like writing music and preparing for a show. And then I go and I do a show at Monarch. I did the hip hop festival down there, which, it was fine. I'm glad I did it. But then immediately after that, I had to take my kids on, my 2 older daughters on full time, and I pretty much lost all momentum with my music, and it really just really pissed me off. Not to take care of them, but just to like be pushing, working so hard at something that I care so much about, and then just watch all the momentum die. You know, that's it's really hard. It's really hard to fucking deal with that. Um, and and all the while, my mom is like, being zesty with me and just whatever with her attitude. And um, so then the fall came and winter came, and I have this friend that I'm working on music with, and he was having some health stuff, so I was like trying to support him and focus on. And then my friend Caitlin, her cancer got worse, and I was visiting her in the hospital a bunch, and then she passed away. She passed away without anybody even telling me, anybody in her family. I had like I just felt it in the universe that she was gone, and then I started hitting people up, and eventually somebody told me she passed. Nobody even told me. I didn't even get to go to the funeral. Somebody I really cared about, somebody I loved a lot. Another son losing a parent. I know 3 little boys who lost parents, 2 sons who lost a father, 1 son who lost a mother. I know these children, and I'm witnessing all that, and but still trying to like move into the world with positive energy, and like still trying to like do shit and like dream big and move forward and like taking care of these kiddos, working my butt off and still trying to like work on music and stuff. And, I kind of just like lost any desire to like keep building with my birth mom. And I know she's been having some health problems, so I've been thinking about her a lot. But I'm just like, I'm so busy. Like, I'm a single father, 3 kids. I take care of my 2 oldest daughters during the week, and we're doing all this stuff, and I'm trying to be there for them and teach them things. And like, I'm teaching my oldest daughter to drive, and I got my youngest daughter. We're in the gym working out and stuff, and and then I do all that during the week and do it like dealing with their school emails and parent teacher conferences and all that stuff. And then the weekend comes and then I get my youngest daughter. So then I have 3 kids on the weekend. And so I'm trying to like spend time with her and do fun stuff with them. But I'm fucking exhausted. And I'm also working. And I'm driving Uber on the weekends because that's when, the best time to drive Uber. And so then I'm just like driving all over the world and like risking my life constantly out in Phoenix because people drive like psychopaths. And I'm just like doing so much. And I'm saying all of this because I'm coming to a point with all this. I have a recent story that I'm going to tell. So I'm doing all this, and I hadn't seen my mom. Well, she sent me a text message, I think, on my birthday. Happy birthday. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, at least she sent me that. And I was really grateful, and I sent, a thank you. And then Mother's Day rolled around, and, I haven't really had a whole lot of money, extra money to just be doing shit for people, which I love to do. But that's what always gets me in trouble is I'm always doing too much and always sacrificing my own peace and my own financial stability so that I can do nice things for other people. And so I decided like, oh, I'm just going to send her a text message and just say Happy Mother's Day, and tell her I love her. And she ignores it. I'm like, okay. And it gets to a point where you're like, I'm trying to open myself up to loving somebody who I closed myself off from my entire life, that pain, and closed myself off from that my entire life so I could survive. And you're like, it comes to a point where you have to protect yourself. You're like, I have to protect this healing, kind, beautiful person that I'm becoming again. I have to protect this. So I was just like, okay, all right. So then I didn't talk to her since then. And all the while I'm hearing about, you know, hearing the tea from my sister about random stuff here and there of our families going on. And then my cousin, she had a big sweet 16 party for her daughter. And, I got invited to that with my kids. And I was like, cool, like, I'm really excited to go because, like, I don't really know Mexican culture. I really am not like, I appreciate when what I'm saying is, I really appreciate when people make me a part of things, is because it's something I've missed out on my entire life. But it can also be really hard to like, go into these situations, and I have to like mentally prepare and be like, okay, like, like this is a lot. This is gonna be a lot. It's gonna be okay, but like it might be hard. And then um, I knew that my mom was probably gonna be there. I haven't seen her in like 6 months. I haven't talked to her in like 6 months. It's been a long time. And so I get there. So my oldest daughter had her homecoming dance that night, so she couldn't come. And then my 12-year-old, it was actually her literal birthday, and she's like, I don't really feel like going out tonight. I was like, you know what? That's fine. Like, it's your birthday. You can do whatever you want, you know? Um, we had actually had a party for her the weekend before. So I was like, yeah, if you just want to chill, that's fine. So she stayed home. So then it was just me and my youngest daughter. Um, Quinn. And so just me and her went. And it was like really, really formal. It was beautiful. It was this beautiful venue. Everybody's dressed up all nice. It was just like really good energy. It felt really good walking in there. And like the second I'm about to walk in, my mom and her, man, they come walking out. And I was just like, oh, like look who it is. Like, just I was happy to see them. And boy, those they they did not greet me with any enthusiasm, any love. Um, it was super weird vibes. I gave um, her man a hug, and then I went to give her a hug, and she gave me the driest, weakest bullshit hug I've ever had in my life. And I was like, okay, all right, this is what this is gonna be. So I go in, and I go inside, and it's amazing. Like everybody's all dressed up. This big, like big room, fancy stuff everywhere. There's a little mini photo booth for people to take photos in, and it was just really, really amazing. Like my cousin Christina did a phenomenal job. Like I was like, wow, I was really impressed with everything. So I go up to Gary, and I'm just like, oh, what's up, Gary? Like, what's going on? Where should we go? And he's like, yeah, anywhere, in the back part where the tables are that, aren't reserved or whatever. I was like, cool, man. So I go back and I see my brother's wife, and she was like, oh, come sit with us. And I was like, oh, cool. Like it really means a lot to me when people like bring me in, because like I'm just like, even though I'm blood with a lot of these people, like I'm still like a stranger. Like I'm still just like, you know, courage, like full of courage, trying to just do this thing, trying to show up and be a part of this family. And so it means a lot when somebody reaches out and like, brings me in. And so I go to sit down with them, and my brother shows up, and I give him a big hug. And like, I love my brother AJ. Like, it's really good vibes. But but then my mom comes in, and she sits down at the table, and it's just like so weird. She's like talking to Quinn, but like ignoring me. And I can just feel it. Like I'm very sensitive to energy. Like things just feel weird. And I don't know. Like I just couldn't put my finger on it. I mean, I don't know why she hates me so much. I don't know why she feels so much negative energy towards me, but it's palpable. I can feel that shit. And eventually, so I'm just like, whatever, like I'm just gonna have a good time. I'm just gonna be here. Like, I came all this way. I'm not gonna let this get me down. So I'm hanging out there with Quinn, and then my sister shows up, and there wasn't enough room for her at the big table, so she sat at like a smaller table behind us. And I was like, oh, I don't want her sitting by herself. So me and Quinn went over there with her and her daughter, because they're about the same age. And not exactly the same age, but close enough that they can like hang out and pal around and stuff. So I was like, all right, let's go do that. So I go back there and sit with them, and I don't know, the vibe is just off. Like, I don't know, my mom is just like, it's just weird. And at one point, the other people came and sat down at the table. Like, I just felt like really disrespected. Like people like were like just being kind of a little bit weird to me. Like it's just weird energy, like kind of just ignoring me. And my mom was ignoring me, and she would like come over to the table and like hug and be all happy and talk to all these people that were sitting next to me, and just ignore me. And like that is a fucking terrible feeling. That is one of just the god awful worst feelings. And it's just like, what did I ever do to deserve this from you? Like seriously, what have I ever done? Like, um, and I say all this to get to this one point in this story where I was sitting there, and I just like, I feel like, I'm 37. I feel like a really strong man. I feel you know, like a man, like a real strong, like adult. Like I feel like I'm on my shit. Like I feel good. Boy, in that moment, I was a hurt young child, and I had to like collect myself emotionally. I had to like, you know, hold my fingers. I had to like breathe for a second, because I started to really feel like really overwhelming pain, like as this hurt young child. And I was just like, man, like this is this is something that I felt my entire life, and now in this moment, like it's coming back to me again. This is something I've been running from my entire life, and here I am faced with it again. And It's like I don't deserve this. I don't deserve to feel like this. Um, and I like tell my daughters this story later, whatever, and it's hard for them to hear, to see me hurt. I spend so much time being the strong, happy, silly, put together, driven man, but that hurt young boy is still in there. And but like I really honor that, because that sensitivity, that love, that kindness, that person is who I am. And I'm not going to let anybody, not even my birth mom, tear that down or hurt him worse, or make him turn to anger or resentment or darkness. I will not let her toxic energy turn me toxic as well. I've worked so hard in my life to learn how to alchemize this darkness that's been in my genes. And, I had a moment of relief. I was like, all right, you know what? I don't care what the fuck you do. I'm going to be good. I'm going to be kind. Um, and this is my life. And I carry this every day. And it's just important to acknowledge it. It's important to acknowledge the hard darkness that we face. And I bring it full circle back to our country and what we're facing right now. It's like we don't make it through these things by pretending like they didn't happen. To my white brothers and sisters, like, we don't get to make it through to the utopia of America by pretending what was done to indigenous and black people didn't happen and just forget about it and just move forward. We don't get to do that. We have to acknowledge what has happened, to people, to women, to gay people, to every marginalized group, trans, like all the marginalized, Asian, like anybody who's tried to give up their tradition and their heritage to be aligned with whiteness. Like, you need to acknowledge that. We need to acknowledge what we're sacrificing to try to fit in with a culture that is destroying us. We don't we don't build back stronger unless we acknowledge what has broken us in the first place. And this is the Kintsugi. This is the broken cup repaired with gold filling to make us whole again and more beautiful than ever. Well, that's about all I got in me for today. It's been a good day. I got up early today, I busted my ass. I think I'm really going to start focusing on honing in on my health and well-being, my meditation. I'm going to stop listening so hard to the news. I'm going to try to be more present in my community and more present for my children. But it's a good reminder that I am working hard and that there's a lot that I've overcome in my life. But I'm doing the work. I'm proud of you all. I know you're all doing the work too. Let's keep it moving. Peace.